Hello and welcome to Economics Unit 1. Today's video is all about credit. Credit is your financial reputation, your credibility. There's a reason why those words have a similar sound at the beginning. The better your credit means the more banks and lending institutions like credit unions and saving and loans associations, like those things we talked about in the earlier video, the better your credit rating, the more they trust you, the better interest rates they're willing to give you, and the bigger the loans they're willing to give you. The weaker your reputation, well, that means they don't trust you. So they don't want to give you as much, or they want to overcharge you on the interest rate to make sure that just in case you can't pay off the whole loan, they get as much profit as possible. Because again, that's how institutions make money for giving you loans. They're not going to just do it just because they're kind, because they can't afford to do that. It's not reasonable. So what affects that credit rating? One is your credit history, late payments. Okay, are you missing a lot of payments? Whether it's credit card bills, phone bills, definitely house payments. You do not want to be late or have missed house payments. That will mess up your credit rating really bad. But it's not the only thing. If you have a history of missing payments, well, guess what? That means you have a history of missing payments, and that makes them really not willing to trust you, no matter how much of a nice person you may seem to be. Collateral. Do you have anything of value other than money that you could pay back a loan with if you ran out of money? That kind of a loan would be called a secured loan, and that's a loan that's backed by collateral. So if you don't pay off the loan, then you can offer collateral instead. Collateral is anything of value that the lender can then take from you if you can't pay the loan. Another factor that affects credit rating is capacity to pay. Basically, can you pay off the loan or not? Like, what's your income compared to how much it costs to pay the loan back? If the loan monthly payment is only 10% of how much you make every month, well, that means you have a lot of capacity to pay. But if 75% of your income goes to just your rent, that means you don't have very much capacity to pay, because so much of your income is just going to surviving. If you're barely surviving, banks are not likely to want to give you a loan because they're worried that you're just not going to have enough extra every month to pay the loan off. And finally, character. Character includes a number of things like criminal record. If you've been in and out of jail a lot, well, if you're in jail, you can't really earn money to pay back a loan, not much money anyways, so that makes them not willing to trust you. Also, if you have a poor job history, as in you've gotten fired a lot or laid off a lot, or you've had a lot of periods of unemployment, well, that means they're worried that even if you're employed right now, even if your capacity to pay looks good right now, well, what if you lose your job again? Well, that's not fair. Maybe it's not your fault that you lose the jobs, but still, you have that history, and that makes them unwilling to trust you with better interest rates, which makes loans cheaper, and it also makes them unwilling to give you bigger loans so you can get something bigger, like a bigger investment in a business or a bigger home. So there's a number of legislations out there that try to protect you a little bit from banks and credit card companies, because again, remember, their incentive is profit, which is fine. That's not a bad thing. But because their goal is to make as much profit as possible, of course, there are those who are going to try to do it through some shady means. So some of the things that protect you include the Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974. This prohibits discrimination in lending based on factors such as race, age, and sex that have no impact on your ability to repay a loan. This used to happen a lot. Los Angeles is not the only city that this used to happen in, but it's got a long history of it, where if you were African American, you couldn't get a loan. Not in some places of the city, or if you did get a loan, it was only to be applied towards businesses and homes in the quote-unquote black districts. Certain white districts, you would not be allowed to have a loan, a mortgage, if you were black, because they didn't want blacks in certain white neighborhoods. That was called redlining. That happened a lot. This Equal Credit Opportunity Act of 1974 says race has nothing to do with your trustworthiness. and your credit reputation, so you can't use that against someone. You can't deny someone a loan or a worse loan just because of their race. If you can prove that they are doing that, then you can sue them. Another kind of law that's out there to protect you are usury laws. This restricts the amount of interest that can be charged for credit. So no matter how poor your credit reputation is, there is a maximum limit that differs from state to state and sometimes even city to city. There's a limit on how much those companies can charge you. And finally, the Truth in Lending Act. This requires businesses to inform consumers of the costs and conditions of borrowing. They cannot lie. They cannot leave things out. If you can prove that they did, you can invalidate the loan and you don't have to pay them back. They have to be honest with you. Now, that doesn't mean they can't put it in hard to read legal writing. It doesn't mean they can't put it in small print. There's a lot of things they can try to do to hopefully trick you into not reading it, but they have to put it in front of you. So that's why you should always read things that you sign. So that way you know everything about it, because they cannot lie. If they do and you catch them, you get to keep whatever it is you bought and you get to throw out the loan. Pretty cool deal, right? So that's why they can't lie to you, and you need to be reading it before you sign it, because once you've signed it, even if you didn't read it, well, that's on you now. And that's all there is to know about credit, at least for today. There's a lot more about this. This is such a deep and important issue, and I hope you do learn more about it before you take any major loans or small loans. We'll come back to this topic a little bit more in the future, but this is good enough for now. If you have any questions, let me know in class, and